and welcome to a new video. It's currently October 7th, 8:10 a.m. Currently in my work office, but it's pretty early, so I'm gonna take this hour to film a video, or at least part of the video. So today, or this week I should say, I want to start plotting seriously my novel that I'm working on. The last video, which was more than a month ago, it was 2 months ago, I believe, in August, I said I was working on a novel that I called Project Datura. I'm actually not working on that story. I'm working on a different story called what I call Project Hoot, which is just such a funny name. So reason I'm changing is because I feel like Project Hoot fits the current market a little better. Not to say the market won't change just drastically one day, especially since it'll take me probably a year or two to write Project Hoot. Hopefully a year. Since I've done most of the world building already, that took 5 years, and so I have I have an idea of like what the world is about, but I'll be working on a different story than what I mentioned in the previous video. So since then, I've done a little more world building because are you ever really done with world building? And Project Hoot needed some extra details that From Ashes, my webcomic, didn't have yet because the settings are different. So I was working on that and also figuring out who the characters are, who are the main players in the story, the main characters, those important side characters, who are they? So that's taken me a little bit of time to figure out, and I have done some plotting. This is not starting from scratch. I've done some plotting. I've wrote down some ideas in my notebook of what events I want to happen in the story and who's involved and how this will relate to other stories in the future. Because I've spent almost 5 years creating this world, I'm not just going to put one story in it. I want more stories in this world. So that means certain characters will overlap with other stories. So there'll be like the main character, this might be the main character of this story, but they'll appear in a later story. So figuring out what their role is in each story that I have in my head, at least. So that's what I've been doing, and procrastinating. Writing, starting a new project is very scary. So been a little bit of procrastinating. I'm okay with the dialogue, the narration and prose in the novel, which is what made me choose a webcomic in the first place, because I could just draw out what I'm describing, what I'm thinking in my head. But now I have to describe it with words, and I thought that would be my weak point. But trying to read more novels, or well, more like different novels, so I can come up with a narrator's voice in my head. Yeah, so in today's video, we're going to spend the week seriously plotting so I can actually start writing hopefully by Sunday. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. I've been wanting to start writing Project Hoot for the past 2 or 3 weeks. That hasn't happened yet. And that's partly because I've been figuring out the characters and I've been changing my ideas. I'm the kind of person where I need the character's name, because once I have the character's name, I get a better idea of like what kind of person they are. When it's just a placeholder like Bob, it doesn't help. It bothers me every time I look at it, and I can't get out of my head like to name the characters until I actually do it, and that stops the whole process. But we have the important players at least. So, got the pen ready. We're going to actually start plotting, and this is going to be my process. So today we're just going to figure out what the big events are, and if I find some small events, I'll include that too, and we'll we'll figure out who's involved in that event. Obviously, like the main character will be in all the events. I'm still going to put her name and stuff, but we'll figure out the events that are going to happen that I know of, which are the big events, and we'll put who's involved, how they're involved. Are they an antagonist? Are they stopping the main character anyway? We'll put that. And then tomorrow, or maybe even later today, if I get time, I want to plot out the story, but by subplot. So I think most stories have the big overarching plot. So let's say Lord of the Rings, big overarching plot is get the ring to Mordor, throw it into Mount Doom, end of story. But there's subplots within the plot. There's Boromir's corruption of the ring, Khazad Dûm, that whole sequence, them trying to get out, Gandalf dying, dying, Rohan, Helm's Deep. So there's a bunch of subplots, and I want to plot out those subplots, so a little more detailed, and then figure out where they happen in the story. I'm going to keep in mind Brandon Sanderson's rule of the 3 P's: promise, progress, and payoff. So you promise something at the beginning of the story. So let's say Lord of the Rings, you promise the reader they're going to take the ring to Mordor. So that whole progress has a bunch of like subplots in them, but you see the journey of Frodo and Sam, and then you have the payoff of them actually throwing the ring into Mount Doom, but you also have like some surprises like Gollum falling in. So yeah, I need to figure out all that, and once I have all the subplots, I'll create my big outline where everything is combined. That'll probably be the end of the week, and then I think I'll be ready to start writing. I'm definitely an outliner rather than just freely writing from my head, especially with this story because I wanted to connect to other stories I write in the future. So I need to make sure that I keep in mind those other stories I have in my head. So I need this outline. It's currently now 8:20. I talked for a good 11 minutes. So we're going to start writing, and I want to finish this probably by 9. So let's give ourselves 30 minutes. And we'll just write the big plots. Let's do actually not 30 minutes, we'll do 15 minutes. So let's start writing this plot, the big ideas at least. that. Still going. Oh. What's happening? Okay then. Got, I think, most of the outline done. I have a lot of the beginning in more detail than like the middle and the end. And the end needs work. So I have an idea of what happens. I have a good idea what happened in the beginning. It's just the middle is a little fuzzy. Like I know what I want to happen, but getting from like point A to point B, I don't know what happens in between. So I need to figure that out, and I think I'll figure that out when I do the subplots. This one I just wrote out the events I want to happen. So there's 46 events. I probably numbered something wrong, so it's probably like more than 46, but so these have to be arranged in like subplots and stuff. They're all part of different plots in the story. Towards the end, it kind of gets a little fuzzy. Like, I don't know how to get to the climax or get to the point I want to be without it feeling rushed. Because right now, when I was writing it, it feels kind of rushed and it feels like it'll only take a couple of chapters and it has to be exciting. It's the climax. The middle, the progress part is like probably the longest part, but the climax has to have like one of the most exciting parts in my opinion. It's not true for all stories, but I would like it to be true for this one. My pen ink kind of went everywhere. I think it happens when this is a fountain pen, so it's a little messy at times, which I don't mind. I find it endearing in a way to have pen ink all over me, on all over my hands. I'd rather not get on my white shirt. Hello, it's currently the next day. It's currently October 8th. It's 2:55 p.m., so a much later start to this plot. Let me just make sure this pen is okay. Well, that was kind of unfortunate. So as I was saying, now that I have the kind of an outline of the plot, I know the events I want to happen. I just want to go into a little more detail. So I'm going to divide it into subplots. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a grid, and it's going to be well, I'll create multiple grids, and they're each for different plot lines in the story, subplot lines, big plot lines. And then I'm going to put like the dates that I want these events to happen, because on Aeon timeline I have to wear my glasses. Why am I not wearing my glasses? So on Aeon timeline I have like the dates. I have the dates for some of these events, not all of them, most of the big ones at least. So I'll have subplots. So I'll have my subplot, whatever plot I'm working on, and then I'll put on the side the events I wanted to happen. Let me start getting my desk cleared off so I can start planning. Let me start doing that. So we're back at where we started the video, but it's not the end of the video. So I was able to plot the subplots, well, the big ones at least. So there's one subplot, and then the other two are like the internal conflict ones, where the character struggles at the beginning. They have trouble with something, like they're shy, introverted, and they have trouble like speaking up. And then towards the end of the story, that's when they have to gain confidence to speak up for themselves. I have their internal conflict. That's not their internal conflict. That was just an example. So I've plotted their internal conflict. One of the characters, it's a little vague because I know what I want to happen. I just don't know how I want it to happen, how I want it to happen. So I think there is some other subplots I have to do, but I think when I do the main big outline, that's when I'll figure out like where this stuff happens, where this character's internal conflict like resolves. It's towards the end. Where the resolve stage is where I don't have like an idea of what will happen. So I think when I do the outline, I'll get a better idea of the bigger one. There are two other subplots that I have to do, two or three. Yeah, so I have two others that I have to do, but they're very short. So I think I'm gonna just do them when I do the big outline. I have those main big subplots already done, so that's good. So probably maybe tonight or tomorrow on the weekend. It's currently Friday, so it's Saturday and Sunday. I'll work on the big outline finally. But as of right now, I don't have time to do it. So I just wanted to do a little intro of saying I did the subplots, and I should also mention what I put like the sections. So I created a grid. I just created a grid. So my one of my subplots is a little bigger because it involves two characters. I put their scene title, put like the time it takes place, the area, the plot of that scene, characters involved, and for the first one I did how it affects the future, which wasn't really necessary. I could just put that under plot, so I took it off for the other two subplots, but those are the sections I included. So there was only four, technically five included, but I put time and area in the same section. But it's scene title, time, area, characters, and plot. So the main importance is the plot and the characters involved. Now I just have to fit them into the big outline, which is going to be really difficult, but I think really fun at the same time. I'm finally done. I've finally finished my outline. It's currently Thursday, October 16th. So I think the last time I talked was last Friday. So it's been a while. This outline took me longer than I anticipated. Granted, two of those days since last week I didn't work on it just because I was busy and I didn't have it the time. But it's finally done. It's 14 pages. So it's a pretty big outline. This is still not completely done because there are certain events or reveals I want to happen in the story, and I need to figure out where I want to put the clues into the story. So, one of my favorite things about mystery novels in particular is when the author adds clues so the reader can figure out with the detective in the story or whoever's acting as the detective who the culprit is. So, that's like one of my favorite things about mystery novels. I want to do the same principle here where I add clues so you can figure out what's going to happen or who's who, basically. I haven't done that yet. What I'm planning to do before I actually start writing, so hopefully I get it done by today, is just go through the outline and add clues. Just take like a red pen and add clues to this outline. I should stop showing this because I think I have to blur it every time I show it. So I just want to add the clues and then I can start writing. Concerning character profiles, I have the profiles done for the two main characters, but there's one more character that I want to do and possibly some other characters, but I think they'll be a little faster just because they're not the main characters. The main characters, you spend the most time in the story, so you have to see their progress more often, whereas these other characters, they come and go throughout the story. So as long as I don't have to go too much in depth, but I would like to figure out like their internal conflict, what their end goal is, stuff like that, a fatal flaw and stuff. So I need to do that for those characters. And I need to come up with a name for one character, well, a couple of characters, because I haven't done that yet. And I also need to figure out the names of certain towns. I have some of the names, but I don't have all the names. And by some, I mean I have maybe one or two, and I just need like the majority. So I need to figure that out. So there's still a lot to do before I'll feel comfortable writing. As I said before, I need to know the names so I have a, like, it just helps me connect to the story better if I know if I have a name for those characters and towns. And now I'm going to figure out names for characters and places. So I forgot to record a time lapse of me just marking up my paper and figuring out the clues I want to sprinkle into my story throughout my story. I came up with the names of two characters that I've been struggling with, and then I came up with the names of two places that'll appear kind of in the beginning of the story. Also, I came up with another place, so three names. So in the outline, I just used a highlighter, and each color was dedicated to a category in the story. So for example, one of it is the villain. I also took away some bits from the outline because this outline, this is why it's good to like leave it for a couple of days. Your story, like when you write a story and even an outline, just leave it for a couple of days and come back to it. I didn't take away too much from the Act 3 one because that's still pretty recent, so probably when I'm writing my story, I'll probably erase something from Act 3, but that won't be for a while because we still have to get through Act 1 and Act 2. But concerning Act 1 and Act 2, I did take away some bits. My next plan is to actually start writing, which is really scary, to actually start this big adventure of writing of a novel. It's definitely different than the webcomic because I would write episodes. With the script, I would write episodes, so it was very small portions of the story and then draw the episodes and everything. But with a novel, I guess it's still the same because you would write by chapters, but it kind of feels different because you're writing the entire story all at once. Whereas with a webcomic, you'll maybe write 10 episodes or 15 episodes ahead and then just do it in portions. You would release it then, which is a little more dangerous, I guess, because you have to be careful not to mess up any like plot from the previous episodes when you're writing. So I guess both of them are kind of scary. I think it's just less scary because I've written more webcomics than I've written a novel because I've written 0 novels. So I have my outline. I'm going to use it, but I won't be chained to it. If I need to change anything, I will do that while I'm writing. I'm just procrastinating the ending of this video because I know it'll feel more real once I end the video. I don't know if how cohesive this video is or if it even made sense because it took over a week to do, almost 2 weeks. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.